We will welcome folks as they enter, and thank you for being here and giving the gift of your Sunday attention. And you could fill in the blank. Thank you for giving the gift of your attention. Fill in whichever day it is on the calendar, and fill in whatever hour it is during the day. And it's not something we're real good at. And I think one of the things that took me by surprise here as I was putting an agenda together is the sacredness of the moment. So I want to welcome everybody to our convergence room, our Humanity as Organism Thrives convergence room. And I'll close this thing in a moment and let Hasina introduce me. But I want everybody to just have the feeling of the space of the be with, which will be important here during this session. And if you're not on camera, I invite you to be. And if you'd prefer not to be, just know that whatever energies you're radiating are part of this hello. So let's just be silent and with each other for about 15 or 30 seconds, and Hasina will break the silence.
Well, it's my privilege now to introduce Dr. Tom Acklin. Tom is stewarding this convergence room with me. And how would I introduce Tom except to say that he is a regenerative neurologist and a functional medicine doctor who believes and just believes in the power of the individual to create transformation in their own lives. And this is such a wonderful thing that the theme is empowerment today, because that's what Tom teaches. How do we empower self, and how do we treat self sacredly? A lot of his work is to do with food as leadership, where how do we take up leadership with just the basic looking after us and stepping into doing what's best for who we are, and be able to give that to the world, which is the most important thing. So that is my introduction. He has many accolades, but I think that's probably the most important thing that I want to say, just empowering everyone. So welcome, Tom, and thank you for empowering everyone.
Thank you. And I'll just say it takes one to know one, right? And we had a great session just now opening up the convergence room with Hasina's Akashic Records reading, which will happen daily. And one of the things that came out of that for me was represencing the idea that the little boxes that we've come to be familiar with over the past couple of years, right? We've separated ourselves from the 3D face-to-face sacred in some ways, and we've increased our hunger for it in some ways. So what's very interesting is metaphysically, we've actually fed the ante. We've anteed up, if you will, by giving the gift of our frustration with the separation. And it's not just true since the de facto lockdowns, et cetera, but it's something that we've been progressively tolerating over really the course of the century or a couple of centuries as we quote progress. I did a broadcast this week on being free of experts. And when we step into a place of personal empowerment, really what we're doing is honoring the inner being of ourselves who is continually fathering the next version. And I'd like to presence my mission statement that came from me, came through me, with me. And I'll share that in a moment. But I have to tell you, actually scrapped a lot of what I thought I was going to be talking about this morning when an idea came to me. And let me give you a digest of what just came from the reading, the Akashic reading, in answer to several questions from participants there in that session. And my understanding of the digest and the notes I took was power is not possession. We have a personal freedom to be, and we are being given a stream of abundance ever present to the resources at our hand, permission and safety to live in personal inherent freedom equals the collective togethering. So to the extent that each of us feels comfortable and full, and cheers to all comfort, cheers to fullness, that sense of collective togethering, and if we're really all here creating it, even though this thing looks like it's moving, and I'm the one with the green box around me right now, each of you is 100% personally responsible and sovereign. That's the good news and the bad news. So thank you for being here and being part of, and I'm very curious to hear what you have to say. And I'll talk for about 15 minutes or so, and I actually do want other folks to have the green box around them. So don't be afraid to actually physically speak. The take-home message of that collective togethering is the power to liberate from the bondage that we've tolerated over the past couple of generations. Yeah. And not only is that one of the great overarching themes of World Unity Week in general, but the reason we put the Humanity as Organism Thrives Convergence Room together was so that we could celebrate other people who, just like I, don't yet fully believe what I just said. We have other folks, high skill set people, right, who definitely carry the message, and they do just fine checking the boxes out there in the 3D logistical world. And as we're fathering the new version of ourselves into existence, we get to be with not just the celebration of the thing that looks like it's showing up, but a very meaningful existential sadness. And when I started writing the mission statement for what I'd like to come out of this session, it started with a letter to my father about sadness, frustration. What are your regrets? And not in a way that we have accepted the social narrative to say, perk up, let's go, get your big boy boots on and get out there. We've tended to kind of demonize regret and frustration. So what I'm pointing to is there's in the going forward, yes, certainly to be celebrated, welcomed. And there's an equally powerful beauty in the surrender. So my father used to say, you'll get poked in the ribs until you get hit upside the head with the 2x4. That was one of his favorite phrases. Yeah. And in the world of listening to the subtle and listening to that still small voice inside each of us, we give ourselves permission to surrender the personal present understanding and welcome the collective. And that's a synchronicity, right? That's literally a coincidence. And then we're celebrated, then we're surprised. We're allowed to be surprised. And we think surprise and coincidence, again, those terms have come to be sort of marginalized as not real world, not realistic, not sensible. Don't expect a surprise, say X produce X. Well, how about say X and be ready for X to the nth power, right? How about the quantum leap of X? And then all of a sudden, we're so far beyond our personal expectations that life is just fun and we're in the mix. So what came out, I've actually been reading Emmett Fox around the year for many years, and it's a daily. There's a daily celebration and invitation. For those of you who don't know Emmett Fox. I'll just read. One of the most influential spiritual leaders of the 20th century, pioneer of the new thought movement, his bold dynamic message that our thoughts shape our reality has changed the lives of millions. So he wrote Sermon on the Mount, he wrote Power Through Constructive Thinking, and today is June 18th. He probably didn't know it was Father's Day, but the title of the entry is Step by Step. It's just 2 paragraphs. I'll read it. When you are praying for your true place, it is well to remember that the full demonstration may not come in one move, but more likely after a series of stages. Now, if you despise these intermediate steps and think, quote, this is a little better, but it is not really what I want, unquote, you will keep the demonstration back. Tom's parentheses, demonstration means the thing that's about to be manifest. So demonstration is the personal power, personal sovereignty that allows the manifestation. Neither should you accept a small improvement as being all that you can hope to get. The scientific attitude is to see the stepping stone as stepping stone, to bless it and give thanks for it, and continue praying for the next step. Which is hard for most of us, especially if we're up to something, so to speak. And we see those little steps. And if it's true that the metaphysical conveyor belt is inevitably going to take us to the promised land, to the place that we say we want, those little steps are, wow. They're little things on the safari ride that we didn't think we noticed, we didn't expect to be there. They're coincidences. Might even be a black cat over there. It might look like something that we don't want to cross our path. But that's also to be wondered at. He also accompanies a piece of scripture, and the cited scripture for that passage is, For precept must be upon precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little. And I promise not to sing here a little, there a little, but if anybody wants to. I break promises too, by the way. So in taking down the experts, presence that, and I will presence the mission statement. So this is what's published on our Trello board. Mother energy is the sacredly receptive. Father energy is the sacredly creative. In order to generate, we must know, consciously or sub, the safety of the mothering permission. Whether these energies allowances are present or not doesn't necessarily depend on a woman and a man being present. The yin-yang, allow, declare, create dynamic is true in every unfolding and in every becoming, in every group and every institution. In family, we traditionally confer these traits to mother and father. And then my declaration and hope and promise was that in this conversational session, and I will stop talking at some point, in this conversational session, and remember, even though my mouth is moving, you're doing it. We will explore these philosophies and celebrate these paternal passions and purposes in honor of Father's Day 2023. No matter your sex, you are mothering and fathering the meaning of your moment, of your now. And our father energies are hungry for yet another now next. And I won't belabor this, but I also wanted to presence the first 6 bullet points, which I distilled. I think I actually had 9 at some point. And let's just get face to face again, because the metaphor of the chili, when you make the chili the first day, it's okay, because as my father used to say, better than no chili at all. Yeah. The second day, you got some leftovers in there. You decide to tweak it up a little bit. It's a little better. It's a little something. And by the third day, when you're about to run out of chili, you wish, oh, wow, I wish I'd made more so I could continue. Yeah. So I was playing with that chili. I want to honor everybody for being here on day one of our convergence room in the first place, for being our chili, and whatever's going in today. Thank you. Sacred gratitudes. And it gets better and better, right? That's a dynamic I'd like to point to in the evolution of our own personal well-being journeys, is that we learn step by step, and we learn better and better. And as we welcome the collective better and better that showed up out of that Akashic Records reading, right? That permission of personal safety gives me the inherent freedom to offer to the collective, offer to the chili, right? Get back in the simmer, get back in the pot. And I'll come back to that. But so here's how it began. I'll just presence this. Celebrating our fathers and grandfathers, honoring the family tree. Give yourself a couple of seconds to think of all the beautiful paternal energies in your family tree. And then profoundly accepting that we not only are the grand recipients, and we are the messengers that have been invested by that universal tree. And then that gives us the safety to declare things that we'd like to fest and father. So declare things that we'd like to celebrate, and then father them into the future with personal receipt of that festing, and giving ourselves a big pat on the back, a real strong attaboy, just like daddy would have given us, nice job at the plate, son. When we do stop and celebrate, when we do stop and honor something, anything, could be the black cat, could be the little cactus on the safari ride, whatever it is that we noticed, that in itself is the fuel to father into the future. And then the synchronicity, right? Then the surprise. We discover ways we can share our newfound dreams and declarations with others around us. So sharing our dreams with others is not a new dynamic, right? The pay it forward dynamics have been used in every healing tradition since we started walking. But discovering new ways that we can share, because we're all addicted to our habits. We all have our particular understandings and favorites, and giving ourselves that sense of attaboy, that gives us the freedom to welcome in the new surprise dynamic. And then, as I pointed before, celebrating the inevitable sadnesses and regrets that come with giving life to the what's next. And you can hear my voice actually fell. I noticed that myself. Even though I'm saying, let's celebrate, it's still in there, right? It's still in there. I was going to move on to this, and I wasn't planning to tell this story, but since it came up, and I'm celebrating my beautiful father, who's no longer with us, but he's really with us. This is his shirt, by the way. I got a lot of his shirts. Some of them don't fit quite right. He was a little stocky guy, and I'm a tall, lean guy. But I like honoring him. He used to say, we had a shorthand in my family, and when we said it's in there, it reflected the story. So he's a military guy. He went on what they call TDY, temporary duty, traveling around. He was a weapons physicist for the Army. He was career Army, worked at the Pentagon. and worked at DARPA and worked on the first smart cruise missiles, and pretty celebrated guy. And he had a fun side. He had a real troublemaker side. And as I mentioned before, his phrase, "You'll get poked in the ribs until you get hit upside the head with a 2x4." He was what I call a snow globe shaker, right? Very successful military guy, climbed the ranks. He was full colonel in the army. And so he must have been doing something right out there, just enough. But I won't tell you everything that he did behind the scenes to poke people in the ribs. So on these TDY trips, he had to come back and file an expense report. And, so we did that for many years. He lost a hat, a dress uniform, military hat, excuse me, on one of his trips, and he put that in the report for reimbursement. And I don't know how much it was, but, military dress uniform. So pretty decently significant, more than a Happy Meal reimbursement. And they denied it. And then the next time he went on the trip, he included the hat. And again, they denied it. And this went on for the course of several trips to where it became kind of a joke between him and his CO, his commanding officer. And then it finally came around to him going on the trip, and came back and put the expense report in, and his CO allegedly called him into his office, said, "Jim, come on back to the office. I want to talk to you." And he's got the expense report in his hand. He says, "I'm looking at the expense report here, and where's the hat?" And my father's response after a pause was, "It's in there." So that's a long description of "it's in there" means, right? In my family tree. And I think we can all presence that as we're stepping into a place of brand new contagion. So the distilling of this came down to: first, celebrate; second, discover; and in the world of humanity as organism thrives, this is what's waiting for us inevitably. Similarly hungry for freedom to father. That instinct that we all can find for a few moments at a time. Almost everybody has it here and there. And we can give them a space. And then celebrating sadness and regret fully. Yay. And my voice goes up. Yay. And then profoundly respecting. And one of the ways that we are invited to participate in World Unity Week, let me just go back here to our main session. So if you go to worldunityweek.org, if you're not familiar with this platform, you can read the history of the platform. You can go to the One World group and various missions. The schedule, when you go to all events, will show you everything in all of the convergence rooms. So this is how we started with the Akashic Records reading. Here I am today, and we'll be off here at a few minutes before the hour, so everybody can go to the plenary event in the main room. And Purpose Earth, leading global change conversation. So this is Purpose Earth, a global grant and mentorship program and initiative of Unity Earth. Believes in the power of the grassroots activation for sustainable global change, environmental restoration, cultural collaboration, community activism, and the 3 purpose pillars. Each of us plays a critical role in nurturing and uniting people on this planet in a new way forward. This will be a powerful session. And in the world of the pure conversion of the messages that we get. We all tend to digest what looks like the sacred information around us, and then it comes out a little bit differently, right? That consensus chili has a little bit of a different taste. In the world of transferring resources, a lot of times when we donate to a cause that we believe in, realistically, we sort of take on the reality that not all of our $100 that we just gave is going to make it to the people that they say it's going to. One of the powerful dynamics in Purpose Earth is 100% of granted money gets to the causes and the people that they pointed to. So I would suggest everybody get there if you can. That's coming up top of the hour. You can click on participate, and there are different ways to participate, and clicking on declare a mission is something I would invite everybody to do if you haven't done it yet. In addition to being part of a convergence room, if you'd like, or even volunteering, lots of different ways to volunteer for the platform. And I wanted to share with you my mission statement, which is in progress. And it's a grounding. And I just wanted to share this and presence it. All of us from time to time have had the urge to get outside of ourselves. So to take a good look at ourselves as a stranger or friend or loved one might. I am excited physically. So this is a declaration for my 99 days. I am excited physically to get outside into Mama Nature, and literally to get outside of the metro area I currently call home. I invite everybody to daydream a 6-week sojourn away from the habits and surroundings we've come to assume are our life. And different ways you can do that. Imagine what a progressive road trip might feel like, making your Airbnb your home for a few days or weeks, immersing yourself in the new life that novel ecosystems bring. And our exclamation point, noticing the literal coincidence of life's frequencies, being with all, being with, which is what we do when we look at each other, being with all life that's given. One of the powerful dynamics that's important to me that I so respect about my father was, I was a Boy Scout. He was our Boy Scout troop leader, which was kind of cool. It was a decently high profile troop because we grew up in Alexandria, Virginia, and it's what the Boy Scouts of America called the Honor Troop, Troop 654 in Alexandria. And just because of our proximity, not because of anything, I think, out of the legacy of the troop, because of our proximity to Mount Vernon, George Washington's home, we were the troop that annually laid a wreath on his tomb. And so the Scout of the Year in the troop was the chosen one to physically lay the wreath and be able to step into the tomb, which the public is not allowed to do. And so I was lucky enough to actually be that one year, and that was fun. But Dad taught me a lot about camping and campfires and being out in nature. And I learned a lot through all the different scouting learning curves as we get our merit badges, and again, it looks like I'm headed for an award, and I didn't know anything back then. I just knew, yes, I'm going to be an Eagle Scout. Yes, I got to get my merit badges. Yes, I got to be, fill in the blank that I think as a 16-year-old, the planet says it makes me a good boy. That gets me the attaboy. So I know now, celebrating step by step, and I can look back at those sacred, I like to call it, God tricks us into new understandings, and I can look at ways that God tricked me into learning about stones and geology so I could get my geology merit badges. And he tricked me into learning plants and camping dynamics and cooking from scratch, et cetera, et cetera. So God bless life's frequencies, being outside and grounding. I spend a lot of time actually barefoot. And it's one of the other things that I love suggesting to people. So much of what we're calling chronic disease these days simply comes from having separated ourselves from the frequencies of life. And it's a start point. So we step back into what I call sacred food, not just what we chew and swallow, but that which we consume energetically, people around us, the thoughts we offer ourselves, etc. And so this is the mission objective is called abundance abodes. And eating the cleanest, most spirited food and drinking the cleanest wisdom waters and blessing ourselves under those spacious, generous skies and bathing in the sounds of the songs of creatures around us. This is not yet fully finished, and so I'll let you know what it looks like. And if anybody has any thoughts about this, maybe we can even mature it together here today. I want to play a 3-minute video for you that I ran across yesterday. And in the world of frequencies, and I think this will be self-explanatory. We'll talk about it after.
Water. What do we really know about it? Some scientists say it seeded the Earth from meteorites, while others say it came up from within the Earth's mantle. Fondly known as the rebel element, water defies both physics and gravity. It expands when it freezes and makes its way upwards through tree trunks. Water is mentioned 722 times in the Bible, more than faith, worship, and love. The Quran says we have created every living thing from water, and the Upanishads say the whole universe is made up of water. All beings are made up of water. When we look at a water analysis, we only learn about what water holds. But what do we learn about water itself? Does it have a spirit or a mind? Does it have the ability to store memory? My name is Veda Austin. I'm a water researcher from New Zealand, specializing in crystallography. Over the last decade, I've been studying water in its state of creation, the phase between liquid and ice, and I've discovered something extraordinary. Water appears to intelligently respond to human consciousness. It uses its building blocks of ice to design recognizable pictographs, enabling it to share its messages or acknowledgement back to us in picture form. Have you noticed a little sailboat appearing in the ice?
I'll pause there to just let everybody see that image.
Influence was the thought of a sailboat. My first experience of this phenomenon was when I projected the thought of my hand into a petri dish of water, froze it, pulled it out, and in the architecture of the ice was a hand. I then froze some seawater and an image of a fish appeared. I now have over 40,000 photos of water responding this way. Here are a few examples showing the influence on the right and the ice response on the left. I inspire water in many ways, including thoughts, music, media, words, photos, and emotions. I've even spoken to water and received written responses. The photos you're seeing now were all taken on my iPhone, not altered or photoshopped. They were designed by water and crystallized in ice. So what does this mean? Could the ancients and indigenous be right? Could water really be a living being?
Stunning, yeah. Veda Austin, if anybody needs that link and wants to dive a little bit deeper. And water, of course, is what we are, and it's what everything that we eat is. And in the world of sacred food, these are our Father's gifts. And all the different ways that we consume are a consensus permission, right? of all of the different intentions energetically with which this thing grew on the planet. And if we eat animals, if the animals eat from healthy plant forms, think of these plant forms just as that consensus, as that collective of frequencies. And we're moving into a place that's very exciting, where we're understanding, we don't have to understand the macronutrients. And I've spent a good chunk of my life here dissecting food as medicine dynamics and regenerative medicine, functional medicine integration of microbiome building, and rebuilding the gut integrity equals rebuild the metabolic integrity. And I've focused on vitamins and minerals and macronutrients. And what if none of that is true? What if it's the energy of the happiness of the plant that brings the regenerative power of the plant? It's just something to think about. And it's something that very excitingly, many other researchers who have been doing this very deep water analysis inside sacred water, finally getting their day inside frequency medicine. So I want to open it up to questions. And if anybody has any thoughts, I appreciate all of us being here. We are creating some sort of a sacred food that 7 days from now at the end of World Unity Week will not be anything that we've ever seen. Bridget, wonderful reminder about water. I just sent out my song Sweet Water today. Oh, I'd love to hear it. Thank you. Here's a link to celebrate the intelligence of water, a song gift this Father's Day in loving memory of my father who supported my musical development. Love you. Always, dear Dad. Thank you, Bridget. Beautiful. And everybody save the chat. Remember, you can save the chat in all of our rooms. That's Bridget's homepage. Tell you what, let's just share that. I don't know if Bridget, if you can hop on and say something about this, I'd love to hear your voice and your description of what brought this through you in the first place. But sweet water flowing all around me. Sweet water flowing through me, sweet water flowing. Help me be wise. Help me see. Help me feel. Help me hear who I am. Help me taste. Help me touch. Help me be. Every day is Earth Day. This is an 11-minute song, and I won't play the whole thing, but let's get a first taste, yeah? BridgetWolf.com.
Sweet water flowing around me, sweet water flowing through me, sweet water flowing, help me be wise.
Beautiful. I'm going to leave it on in the background. Secret Intelligence of Water, Leo, thank you. Veda Austin shares some fascinating discoveries from her work as a crystallographer and water researcher. Her work goes so deep and it's fascinating. My scout leaders were good examples of fathering. Thank you, Leo. Yes. Okay, wonderful. If anybody's not wanting to speak out loud or be on camera, and you have a question that you still is a burning desire, feel free to type it in the chat. In addition to a lot of the other work that I do, I fell in love with the idea of network marketing as not only a pay it forward for high quality products in a company that's got a nice ethic, but also as a community builder. And about 15 years ago, when I left Georgetown, I, unlike Becky, was not supported by my father. He thought I was going through a midlife crisis, thought I was kind of insane when I bought the first yoga studio, thought I was incredibly insane and needed to be committed when we bought the second and third. And so I was not supported. It took him several years of my loving my new life back then, right, to step in to understanding me. But I was also stepping out of being an expert those years and apologizing to myself for having allowed the dynamic, if you will, from the social narrative that said, get to the top, stay at the top, be the expert. And one of the things that came out of network marketing, I have a mentor who is fond of saying, get to the room as fast, get to the front of the room as fast as you can, and then get to the back of the room as fast as you can. Yeah. How do you get successful? You get to the front as fast as you can and get away and, pay it forward and let the next, and so I think it's a really powerful dynamic. And I think it's one way, it's one thing that comes out of these new, for me, new for me in the past 10 years or so, Zoom collectives. Lots of people have been doing this for a lot of years, but I'm going to be quiet, wait for see where the next green box appears. Who would like to say something? Bridget, we have you in the background. Would you like to say anything about the passion, whatever the spark plug was that brought this particular piece forward? Hillary.
Thank you so
I
much.
see your mouth moving, Bridget, but I can't hear you.
Help me.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you. Hi.
My partner might still be sleeping, so that's the reason why I wasn't on. But I do want to share that song came to me while I was attending a workshop called Masks of Transformation. And I was invited to do it as a work exchange. So I would go in and bring songs through, and I would bring them to be in the ceremonies for that workshop week. That was the trade exchange. So I went to the river where I lived at that time. And for the very first time in my life, I stood at the bank and waited to feel the invitation of the water, to walk into the water, to ask for a song for the ceremony. So I just wanted to share that because I think I'm discovering new ways of being on this good earth. And the reminder of the grounding is powerful. I just saw the happy birthday email to Clint Ober and the earthing.com community. Grounding is so hugely important. So I just want to say thank you all. And this song is a gift from the water, from my heart to yours. Happy Father's Day.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for asking too. Thank you for asking. Do you have any suggestion for us as to how to get closer in touch with ourselves to ask permission of all natural things, the water, the natural forces, etc. It does come naturally, and then it's educated out of us. And then there's this awakening. Yeah. Do you have any suggestions as to how folks might get close?
An image came when you asked that question. Thank you for the question. Like a child, we'd ask for, candy or a popsicle or something we wanted. So if we want a song from the universe or from the water, or if we want to feel better and we want to hug a tree, we can ask a tree, is it okay if you just say it in your heart, is it okay if I hug you? And then wait. And for me, it's like a yes is if I feel clear. and a maybe might be staticky or unsure. So there's a way of tuning into nature that is about vibration. And so we can trust ourselves to explore and just find our own way through this. These are just my ways of doing it, but everybody has their own way of tuning in to nature and the spirits and this wonderful universe we live in. I even traveled to other star systems. So it's way, way more deep and more beautiful and more multidimensional than we've been taught. So I encourage to start where you can start. Feel what you can feel. Connect your own dots. And if something feels really great, then it's probably your ticket to that next, to that part of you that's just been there all along and just maybe was asleep because somebody had told us we shouldn't or couldn't or, punished us out of it. So I just want to encourage everybody to find your gifts and use them. That's part of the new day we're creating together. So thank you.
Mm, gorgeously woven. There's so much in there. I can't wait to look forward to hear the rest of that song and explore your website. Thank you. When you said connect the dots, I heard somebody over this past week sort of chiding a patient, and it was a nurse kind of chiding a patient, and she said, "You do you," and she was suggesting that the patient stop meddling in other people's affairs, and in stepping into our own personal sovereignty, personal medical sovereignty, personal navigating life sovereignty. It's good for me to remember, you do you. Yeah. And especially as we recover from our education that suggested that we know that we have answers. It's a nice freedom. Yeah. Hillary, hello.
Hi, and thank you. I was moving around, so it's very distracting when somebody's doing that. That's why I was off camera. Um, Two things. One, just to build on what Becky was saying, was that there is a wonderful initiative that's been founded by Danalia Castell called the Listening Field, where it's a beautiful ceremonial space you go into to literally connect to and co-create with the nature elders. And actually I'm doing a session with Danalia tomorrow night for Unity Earth. But what's wonderful about it is that you do start where you want to, and that we've learned. I've been doing these listening fields for about 2 years with Danalia, and nature just loves it when we want to talk to them and when we want to truly deeply listen, and they want to co-evolve with us. They don't necessarily have all the answers either. It's about how they need us as much as we need them. So that's just building on that, which is fascinating. But what I wanted to say was that I had a very similar story to yours around my father. And I had a very successful consulting practice, and he was a consulting actuary who was a visionary and amazing in his field. And but in the late 90s, I just quit, and I said, I can't do this anymore. I can't do one more strategic plan. And I went into healing myself in terms of getting healing, and I then became a Reiki master. And he couldn't understand. I opened a business spa for businesses to get healed. And he said to me, I don't understand. You had a very lucrative business. Why did you do that? And he honestly couldn't understand. But he did over time, because I worked with an energy that was a beaver named Buffy. And that little beaver would do amazing healings on my mother. And one day when we were at the airport taking my twin sister to the hospital, to the airport, because my mom was in hospital, they disappeared. And I waited for them at security, and sure enough, there they show up, and he hands me a beautiful little beaver. And he said to me, I understand now, because I had been communing with our mother who was in a coma. But his appreciation of that was like phenomenal for me. Like, my dad finally got it. My mother got it all along, but for my dad to finally get it, it was so beautiful. But the thing was that I learned was that he, just like waves need certain form of resistance in order for the wave to be formed, he was my resistance, in that I wanted to show him that I could do this and I could make a living doing this. And this was my calling. And it was in many ways his resistance that actually mobilized and moved me, I think, much quicker than I would have had he just jumped on board right away. So, because my mom did, I was lucky I had my mom on board right away. But his resistance, I think, was very much part of the wave that allowed me to change. So I want to honor. He lived to almost 101. Amazing man, and I just want to honor him today. So thank you for the opportunity to do that.
Wonderful. Thank you, Hillary. What was his name?
Dennis George.
Dennis George. I think Dennis George is probably playing with my dad up there, and all of our and I echo your sense. I had that personal awakening too, realizing and when I represented my dad earlier as kind of a snow globe shaker, in that Veda Austin video, she calls water the rebel element. And I know my father was the rebel element. And without his squeezing, I probably would not have been as strong in being able to break out of cocoons. And I'm good at puzzles, and I'm good at cocoons, and I'm good at complicated situations. And it's because I had to hide from him a lot and outwit him. Anybody else? Well, thank you to all of our family trees, and I honor each and every one of your fathers. And that doesn't necessarily mean your genetic father. Hillary, hola. I mean, Heather, hola.
Hola. I apologize for dipping out for a second. But I do want to share what came up this morning when you invited me, Tom. Thank you. And your words are turning on all kinds of light bulbs inside. And this Father's Day, I'm celebrating my father because, well, like you're saying, the resistance, I know that, and also what it has given me is a superpower of stubbornness. And I think there's this edge. Well, it's, the stubbornness can show up and be destructive or creative, and I've known both and know both, and it's powerful. It's a powerful edge. And also I'm a nurse, and they used to call me Trouble in the hospital.
Thank you.
I'm sure there's a connection to all this that I'm saying, but it's really just coming from my heart. And
yeah,
I think that the stubbornness to shake things up, to follow what's wanting to be honored in my heart, in my this wisdom source that goes beyond our what we've been trained in and the material. But then also know that the material can't be without it, and that there is an infinite resource to that wisdom, and to trust that is really the stubbornness, I think, that I have, to be willing to be messy, to shake things up, to be a stand for what's true for us in our heart. And just yesterday I saw this pattern that I was doing in my personal intimate partnership relationship about and I'm just gonna say it like it is. I would get triggered emotionally and leave and walk away, and then go act out and get comfort from another man. and it's a theme and it's a thread. And then also it is what I was learning or taught. It's in my genetic makeup, because I know that my grandfather and my father has done the same pattern. Also, my brother did the same thing to his wife, and she subsequently died of cancer. And now he's with the other woman. And so I know that it's just a defense mechanism, and of honoring our this wisdom source. And so yesterday, I realized this in the middle of the night and saw all these signs, and the surprise and the wisdom, when we're really open to see the wisdom showing us signs, to listen to them and to confront them courageously, the stubbornness in that. And so I shared this with my partner, that I saw all of this connection, and that really that I'm being a stand, so that my legacy is that my kids don't carry on these patterns of pain and suffering. They're not honoring their truth in their heart. And so it was incredibly liberating yesterday to do that, to see that, because I had been blaming my partner for all of my pain. And I see that my father would do the same with my mother, and my brother did that with his wife. And it stops now. And so the gift is that, we can set ourselves free, and we can be a source for holding new patterns. The pater, the mater, to be the receiver of new patterns. And so I'm really, really blessed and honored to have this space to share this with so many amazing people. I don't even know, but I do know, because they're connected to Tom. And and also, like, I can't explain this to my father. He's holding this secret in his heart. I am the only one in the family that knows certain things about him, and I know it's a gift, and hopefully I can set him free.
I think you just did, my dear.
Because he's so afraid. He's so afraid. And I can see it in his eyes, So thank you.
Thanks, Heather.
It's such a gift.
Your transparency in your heart and your willingness is a powerful gift. That's the gift. And
well, he gave it to me,
He gave it to you, since you mentioned Pater. I actually was going to spend a good chunk of time talking about the etymology of Pater. And
of course,
in space, just like we've bastardized personal sovereignty conversations and convinced people to not be the expert in their own lives, we've shifted over the last 100 years or so the progression of the word patron. And patron used to be the very powerful protector, right? Pater comes from protector and guardian. Middle English, special guardian or protector from, and in the world of patron saint, for example, or when there was a patron, we would seek a patron for our artistic endeavors, etc. And patron was always the governor, the protector. And to patronize meant I bring my attention to you. I bring my sacred honor of you as special bright light. I patronize you. And we've bastardized that as well. And all of a sudden, patronizing is not a good thing. But that's something to be transformed in with exactly the kind of courage that you just showed, Heather. I know that was an in the moment decision to share that, but that's what we get. We each get to patronize each other. I come to you as the thing that I don't know how it's going to turn out. I don't know where the enlightenment is going to come from or the surprise ending is going to come from, but I bring it to you. Yeah. And I'll use that as a bridge to share something else, something that has flipped for me over the years. I've always loved, not always, but since I woke up, I've loved the prayer of St. Francis. And since we're at the top of the hour, I won't read it. I will leave it, and I'd actually make a request of everybody that they presence the prayer for themselves today and have whatever fun God wants you to have, whoever your version of God is. But I'll let you know, most of the time when I grew up in the Episcopalian Church, again, as a straight A student in Boy Scout, and my father was, quite proud that I was the the head acolyte, and I was the guy, checking the boxes. I was a well-behaved child. And Daddy was proud of me because I knew how to ask for help to the experts. And many prayers are structured in such a way that says, Lord, out there, make me a channel of thy peace. Make me, Tom, a channel of thy peace. Lord, out there where there is hatred, may I, Tom, bring love. Where there is wrong, Lord, out there, please help me. I am not capable, right? There's an implication there. And I had a mentor who walked me through understanding scripture of many different traditions. And at some point, it was probably 5 years in or so, he had suggested that I presence the St. Francis prayer daily, which I did. Actually made it part of my routine for many years. And somewhere 5 or 6 years in, it flipped for me. And this prayer was being spoken to Tom. Lord, make me a channel of thy peace, by the ecosystem, right? By the everything out there. Surprise me. Tom, make me a channel of thy peace, that where there is hatred, I may bring love. I, ecosystem, I, metaphysics, may bring love. Where there is despair, may I bring hope, etc. Right? And that, again, this points to the idea that the despair is not something coming from me because of a failure or a success or failure, but because of something I had done. I, as the perfect representation of the conscious universe, I appear because of a decrement in the water, in the wisdom. I use that as a metaphor, but whatever the wisdom is, right? Just like we see the water represent the thing that it's being suggested to attend to, I here as a sack of water, Tom the sack of water, represent the distillation of all of the different frequencies that I put myself in the middle of. And so the despair is not coming from Tom. Tom is just representing. And so the ecosystem gets to say, where there is despair, may I bring hope. Where there are shadows, may I bring light. I heard Dr. Joe this morning, Dr. Joe Dispenza, say, it's not your job to change the tumor. And when we look in the mirror and we see what we think is a decrement, it's not our job to change the tumor, right? It's our job to change the ecosystem, the frequencies. What are we bathing in? We are always the proper reflection, and we are always the proper distillation. So thank you for helping me be happy father today. And again, thanks to your fathers. Appreciate whatever they had to do to get you here. And more will be revealed, as they say. And thank you for also tolerating over the top of the hour here. Appreciate everybody being here and hanging on with me. And I will, let's close and move on over to the other plenary session, where we continue the celebration. And if anybody has thoughts, by the way, I personally, have 100 hours of ideas that you helped me, that you brought to me. So appreciate that. And let's continue the conversation together. And what I would suggest is the other phrase that came to me this morning, the inevitable cascade of contagion of this message. I appreciate all of you.
And I just want to say, Shamima had put Tom's details in the chat if you want to know more about his food as leadership and many other ideas. So,
Thank you, mucho. Okay, off to the chili pot.